The FATASOL dynasty. Contrary to common knowledge and belief, the Hebrews of ancient Egypt did not live a life of suffering and did not perform forced labor the way it is described. They were more like servants than slaves, and they lived their lives as second-class or even third-class citizens. They did not have rights like the Egyptians, and they did not get paid for their work. They only received food, clothing, and shelter. They did not own any assets. Everything was given to them by the Egyptians, more accurately, the pharaoh. The last pharaoh, the one who ruled during my first incarnation, or Vicky in my current reincarnation, was relatively cruel and harder on the people than the ones before him, despite being an entity with higher powers, just like all of the other pharaohs before him. Although he was not a pure FATASOL, he was still considered a god to the nation. His wife was Farah, a Topher, in my current reincarnation. Farah died at a relatively young age. She was a pure FATASOL who went through the Baraka process at a young age and became a high priestess before she married the pharaoh, Vicky, in my current reincarnation. It is not clear to me why she died at such a young age. It was most definitely not typical for an offspring of FATASOL to die at such a young age. Even more interestingly is how the pharaoh or FATAHOTEP didn't succeed in healing her, if indeed she was sick, with the magical staff that they had in their possession. I know many souls were helped and saved from death with the magical staff. I suppose she reached her destiny in this reincarnation. Roka, Tina in my current reincarnation, who was Farah's daughter, went through the Baraka process in the holy temple in the pharaoh's palace under the supervision of FATAHOTEP, who was the high priest, which is customary of every pharaoh child from the offspring of FATASOL. Mano and Roka built a very close relationship as young children, as they were both students of the priesthood. They spent a lot of time together, worked together, and learned together. Roka loved and was loved by Mano since she was a child. Their love was destroyed because she chose to marry her father, which was very accepted at the time, due to her mother's death, because she, like the pharaoh, was from the offspring of FATASOL. From the start, the love between Mano and Roka never stood a chance to come to fruition, since Mano was originally a Hebrew servant, whereas Roka was from the FATASOL dynasty. Roka had to pass the Baraka process in order to be worthy to marry her father, Pharaoh, Vicky in my current reincarnation, which is a process that took many years. At the age of 18 years old, Roka married her father, Pharaoh. In the wedding ceremony, in which Mano was present along with the rest of the priests, Roka received the title of the Queen of the Pharaohs, as well as the title of the High Priestess, who possessed immense power and knowledge. Roka had a personal assistant since she was born, who was named Mer, or Miriam, my wife in my current reincarnation. Mer was a short, old, fat, and mentally limited woman. Mer was very obsessive over Roka. Mer felt as though she was more than just a servant or a mother to Roka. According to my memory, Mer was a simple Egyptian woman who never married nor brought children to the world. Roka had a daughter named Gama, or Mina in my current reincarnation, who was also sent to go through the Baraka process since she was a daughter of the pharaoh. She went through the Baraka process in the holy temple of the pharaoh's palace under the supervision of FATAHOTEP. Manohotep was a teacher to Gama as well. Mano and Gama fell in love. In the year 2448, they took advantage of the period of the Great Confusion, or Exodus, and fled with the Hebrews to the land of Israel. In the year 2449, according to the Hebrew calendar, Mano and Gamma got married in the desert on the way to the Holy Land when Mano was 50 and Gamma was 17. Their wedding was on the 1st of Tishrei, which was also Mano's birthday. They chose not to have children and instead dedicated their lives to their spiritual work. They both lived very long and full lives and died together in the evil fires of the destruction of the first holy temple, their home, in Jerusalem before the Babylonian exile on the 9th of Av in the year 3339 according to the Hebrew calendar and 421 BC according to the Gregorian calendar. Mano was 939 years old and Gamma was 906 years old. Their bodies were never buried. They both served as high priests until the day they died. Gamma was the head priestess, deputy of the high priest Saria, which was Mano's new name or title in Israel, in secrecy, because it was not accepted at the time for a woman, especially a gentile, to hold such a position of power. Gamma was an Egyptian woman of the pharaohs from the offspring of FATASOL. She never converted her destiny or her essence into Judaism, but she was part of the new Jewish nation and highly respected by all. It is important to note that although Mano and Gamma loved and married each other, their connection and relationship would have never been accepted by the pharaoh if they would have stayed in Egypt because of Mano's past of being a Hebrew slave and Gamma being the granddaughter of the pharaoh. As priests, Mano and Gamma attained the ability to experience and see unlimited strength of high powers, downfalls, wars and plagues. They earned the ability to see, work with, and accompany the most powerful people of the Jewish nation. They were also part of the Jewish nation's journey in fulfilling its destiny all the way to its downfall on the 9th of Av in the year 3339 or 421 BC according to the Gregorian calendar. They hid religious objects and mystical or magical tools of different kinds under the dome of the rock in Jerusalem, and that technology is still there today, waiting to be found and brought to the world's awareness. Among the different objects buried under the Holy Temple exists 3 original Torahs that were written by Moses and his assistants. I emphasize his assistants. When Mano and Gamma fled from Egypt during the Exodus, they were able to take the magical staffs and bury them under the Holy Temple. The Torah on those days was learned as oral Torah and not the Torah that we know today. Mano and Gamma served the nation for many years with the knowledge they acquired in Egypt as priests. They did so according to the laws of the Jewish religion. As high priests, Mano and Gamma knew how to communicate with animals through speech and telepathy. Others from the royal palace, such as Pharaoh, Roka, and Fatahotep, knew how to do this as well. The last pharaoh's favorite animal was a lion named Chisholm, my dog in my current reincarnation. Chisholm was very close to Roka, Gamma, and Mano when they were kids in the pharaoh's palace. They went their separate ways when they left Egypt during the period of the Great Confusion, or Exodus. Chisholm was born in the year 2415 and died in the year 2450, according to the Hebrew calendar. 1345 BC to 1310 BC, according to the Gregorian calendar. After the Exodus. On the 15th of Nisan, in the year 2448, according to the Hebrew calendar, or 1312 BC, according to the Gregorian calendar, Mano and Gama, along with the Hebrews, left Egypt and arrived to Mount Sinai, which is actually Mount Kharkoum in present day, on the 1st of Sivan. On the 6th of Sivan in the year 2448, the holiday of Shavuot, God came down to Mount Sinai and spoke the 10 Commandments. The following day, on the 7th of Sivan, Moses went up to the mountain for 40 days to get the 10 Commandments. Moses came down with the 10 Commandments, the tablets, on the 17th of Tammuz, 2448, and broke them out of anger due to the infamous golden calf story, the nation's sin. Moses went up to the mountain once again on the 18th of Tammuz for 40 days to ask forgiveness and atonement for the sins of the Hebrews. He came down on the 28th of Av. Moses went up onto the mountain for the 3rd time for another 40 days on the 29th of Av, after sunset, to get the 2nd set of the tablets, which is still preserved under the Dome of the Rock, or the Muslim mosque in Jerusalem. Moses came down from the mountain on the Day of Atonement, or Yom HaKippurim in Hebrew, according to the Hebrew calendar, on the 10th of Tishrei in the year 2449, at sunrise, according to the Hebrew calendar, 1311 BC, according to the Gregorian calendar, for the last time. Although there are no codes in these writings, I am purposefully giving you the details of the dates since they will be important one of these days. Whoever knows the code for the book Rays of Light, as well as the Pyramid Code, will find these dates and details used quite often to continue their work and understanding. The end of the Pharaonic era came with the Exodus. As this era came to an end, the secrets of the universe, along with the different technologies, were lost. Among the sacred technologies that perished were magnets, lasers, and light energy, which were used to build the pyramids. From this point forward, Egypt declined and eventually became what it is today, a poor and primitive nation. My father, my guide, and my rabbi, Rabbi A.A., was the man who planned the Exodus. He was also the secret helper to Moses throughout the negotiations to release the Hebrews from slavery and into freedom. My father, until the day he died, was the right-hand man to Moses, along with the rest of the rulers of the military and the leaders who came after him. For me, he was a teacher, and with his help I became the high priest in Jerusalem, with neither myself nor my wife, who was not even a Hebrew, being part of the family of Aaron, the first high priest in Israel, or the Levi tribe. The priesthood. Aaron, the first high priest in Israel, was a half-brother to Moses. His mother became pregnant from an ancient pharaoh. Aaron was the offspring of FATASOL, who were aliens. Aaron's family were the original priests, but due to inbreeding over the years, we cannot be sure that a high priest is really from the Aaron family or the Levi tribe. Over the past years, I have met and recognized people from my first incarnation. I don't always remember everyone all the time. For reasons unknown to me, the memory comes and goes. Eliezer and the high priest, Yoni Cohen, in my current reincarnation, replaced his father Aaron after his death. I, Saria, the son of Amram from the Menashe tribe, replaced him as the high priest upon his death. There were head priests who worked under me as my deputies. Eliezer's younger brother, Nadav, or Rami Levi, in my current reincarnation, did not take his natural place as the next high priest after the death of his brother, Eliezer. This was even more odd, since Eliezer, Yoni Cohen in my current reincarnation, did not have biological children of his own. Rather, he had adopted children that were never going to be next in line for the high priest position. Nadav became the high priest under my command, and he was responsible for looking after the holy temple. He didn't get the role as the high priest because my father at the time, Rabbi A.A., made sure that I acquired the role as the high priest. Today, some people may call this an act of deception and a political crime, but that is how things worked at the time. Amram felt that his son was more suited to be the high priest, especially since he had undergone the Baraka process and possessed supernatural powers along with the knowledge of the secrets of the universe that very few were lucky enough to receive. Nadav died a short time after, about 10 years, and was then replaced by Aaron's grandson, Pinchas. This goes to show that for hundreds of years the high priest was not from the Cohen family or from the Levi tribe as the rest of the high priests and Moses were. To top it off, Saria's wife, Gama, who was not only a gentile but a pharaonic alien from the FATASOL dynasty, served as a head priestess in secrecy. Long story short, the whole priesthood was a farce. This information will revolutionize many basic Jewish traditions as well as its belief system. There is nothing new under the sun. What was, will be, and what will be already was.